I have your permission to open up your Akashic records and go into them?
Yes.
Fabulous. So we all know you're Pleiadian. And it's not just that you're working with them, and it's not just that they chose you, it's that you are one of them. So that's the first thing that's just immediate that I want to say. But I'm going to ask out loud, and I'm asking myself, where you originated as a soul in the very beginning of your evolution. Okay, so you're OG light worker, OG star soul. You did come from Andromeda Galaxy. It's very clear that two things. One is that actually, in the context of being an Andromedan soul, you're a young Andromedan soul. But in the context of being like a soul in the Milky Way and being a light worker, you're still very much an old soul. But what I'm hearing is just in regards to Andromeda, you're a young soul in regards to Andromeda. So at least for me in my story in Andromeda, it was like, I was like, how many lifetimes did I have there? And they're like billions. And I was like, okay, oh fuck. But it was very clear that I'm getting a visual of like the spiral galaxy, and this makes sense with the young soul. Is this a representation? Is that like they're showing me like a location like way out on one of the, what would you call it, one of the limbs? So it's almost like, if you could think about like the center being, I guess, older and moving out and out and out. So you started, that's like where you originate from, is from almost like one of the arms of the Andromeda Galaxy. So I'm going to ask like what type of being or what type of existence was this? Because Andromeda Galaxy is considered a few things. One, it's considered to be like the mother galaxy of the Milky Way, sort of like the mother goddess consciousness. I've also heard the story that it's a galaxy that essentially completed itself. So like all beings in all life realized their oneness. Basically the whole galaxy became unity consciousness. So it also didn't dip into as deep polarity as we have here in the Milky Way. So especially I find when light workers souls originate from Andromeda Galaxy, they come here to the Milky Way with a purpose. There's definitely a purpose. Okay, so that's all background. So what were you there? I'm just going to trust it. It feels avian. It was youthful. It was free. It was playful energy. It almost feels like a cross between like something elemental and something avian. But the main energy I get from this, like the very like birthplace of your existence, is like the literal translation is like avian being, but it almost feels like a floaty little like butterfly. So this is like your, I guess I would say like your core energy at its purest, at its, I don't want to say like least developed, but it's like, yeah, at its first incarnation, being this being that's like a floaty little butterfly. Was it physical? Sort of. So the key thing about this first incarnation is it really encompasses that feeling of freedom and kind of fluttering around. But that's the best metaphor I think I can grasp as a human. And this also could help explain why you actually have such a gift at with your own tapping into your own multidimensionality and your own ability in which to walk between realms, is because like this is like actually you expressing who you are on a soul level. It's not only that you can walk between, what was the phrase you used again?
Void walker.
Void walker. It's like you're walking almost sounds too heavy. It's like you're a little butterfly that can float between them all. Because there's nothing to, there's no physical place, or there's no dimension, there's no physical place or dimension that is like solidified that your soul is called to. Your soul is actually called to the in-between.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So keep on doing what you're doing. Okay, so anything else about Andromeda or this existence? You just the message that you were a part of the completion of that galaxy. So you came in later to the evolution, the spiritual evolution of that galaxy, and it's almost like you were called in as a soul because you were able to flutter in between these realms. And in doing so, it's almost like, if I could extend the butterfly metaphor, and you see the butterfly, and it's almost like shooting out ties to all these different places and all these different realms. And because you're able to seamlessly walk between all of them, it's like all of the, again, to like use that, maybe to use that image that I described to you before, it was like, because you were able to fly in between, you were able to really like close the final gap. So you actually had a very like incremental part in like the completing the full realization of unity consciousness in that galaxy, and that's like actually why you were that's like why you incarnated to begin with. It's almost like the universe and the desire and all that got to a certain point, and they were like, we need a being that can do what you do. We need a being that isn't tied to this thing or this thing, but is this new thing that walks in between, that flutters in between. Wow. And so this is literally a part of your like actual creation, like the desire of like God and the universe and all that is needed that. And so I think this is like really emphasizing like on a heart level that there's such a purpose to what you do energetically and where you come from. It's not only just like a thing that you do, it's like literally like why you were created.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me just sit with that for a moment, because I feel that in the heart for sure. So also a reminder too, you've already done this successfully. And so what you do and why you were created and why you came into existence, it was like you did it. You were a part of the completion. And so what do we do when we do that? I guess we sign up for another ride. Okay, so anything else about Andromeda? That's all. Okay. I'm going to ask how you came here. How did you come to the Milky Way? Feels more like Antares than Arcturus. You were called here. It definitely was a... How much it's popping. You didn't pass through as a being, but you did. So you had like incarnation in Andromeda, and then once that was complete, it was like soul came through. I'm being told it was sort of an oblong route. The ones I'm most familiar with is Antares portal and Arcturus portal. It's like kind of the Antares, but I think if it needs to come to clarity later in the story, it will. But essentially, the energy is that you were called through from a soul level. Who called you? It was other Andromedans that had already come through. This is very interesting. So there are other Andromedan souls and other Andromedan beings that had already come through. So they called you through on a soul level. And we'll ask where the first place you incarnated in the Milky Way was. I feel like I'd have to look it up. I'm hearing sometimes I hear stuff and then it'll be like close, but I'm not getting the name quite right. And this is a name I've never heard before, so I don't even know. I'm just gonna say it. It's called Ortega. I have to look that up and see if there's anything close to that. But I'm getting it's a ringed planet. Oh, okay, this makes sense, because they're telling me you took an oblong route here. So they're basically, the way I'm interpreting that is they're like, you took a very like non-traditional path here. It's not one of the paths that most souls would take. So it would make sense that it's a planet that is kind of unheard of. So maybe ask what this is like. Oh, okay. So the two things that are coming through is this feels more like an etheric planet, or it's like a gas planet. So you came through as a soul. You do not physically incarnate first. You sort of and this would be more comfortable for you on a soul level to incarnate in this way, because to imagine go from where you were being the in between flutterer that you were to being like, now I will be a physical being. It's like, no, that would not work. So your next step was to come here and quite literally be a being on a gas planet. So there was like some physicality to it, but it's not solidified physicality. And And the thing I heard is, and I don't fully understand this, but there was like a functional mechanism to this. And maybe that's like a way of describing that. It was sort of your gentle way of learning to sort of descend yourself in frequency so that you're able to handle eventually, now being physical. So anything else about this existence? This feels like your first introduction to wind, to air element, and fire element. And you were some sort of like instigator in like a planetary shift. So I think what I'm getting is like this was the learning of the skill of both becoming more physical, introducing yourself to the Milky Way, but also something about being the spark. This is what it is. You were in Andromeda. You were birthed as a necessity for completion, and now you needed to learn how to be the catalyst for the other side, which is the spark, the creator. And so you chose to do this in a way on a planet where it maybe wasn't so established. It feels like pretty, I don't want to say empty, but it's not like a super complex place. But you basically interjected yourself in there, knowing that I get to experiment with like totally changing this place. So it's almost like I feel like the shell and like the color of the planet, of the gas there, like completely shifted. Like it was more yellow, and then it became more, and then it became more purple, kind of thing. Okay, so all right, so where after this, and maybe where's the first place you physically incarnated? Okay, this is where it gets more traditional. Lyra. Okay, but being cat. Do you like cats? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're definitely a cat being for sure. May I ask how many lifetimes you had in Lyra's system? It's like several dozens. The lifetimes are longer. So you were many different beings there. Some humanoid, more cat. Not really the avian. This is more an exploration of more physical form. I think this was really about introducing yourself to relationship and interpersonal interactions, and really diving into all that. Definitely a part of the war there, the draconian takeover. I don't usually dive deep into the trauma too much, but you got pummeled a few times. It's in there for sure. You did escape, What I think I really want to know is your connection to Pleiades and Sirius, and how you got there. Pleiades first. You were one of the refugees for sure. And this is why the Pleiadian this is something I actually really want to emphasize. When you said they chose me, you are one of them. In fact, you are one of on a soul level, you were one of the founders. You were one of the way showers. You were one of the refugees that left the Lyra system and went to the Pleiades and actually created what we know as the Pleiadians. This is the natural evolution of you coming from being a completer to learning how to be the spark, and then going through many lives, dozens of lives on Lyra, knowing that you can both complete things and start things. You were one of the beings that helped establish, I guess we call them outposts, that eventually became the entire Pleiadian civilization. So you were like one of the first, like one of the first waves there. So when we say they chose you, it's because you helped create them. So they're only completing the circle for you. So it's like they choose you by being thankful that they exist, and vice versa. It's like, sort of this wheel of beautiful gratitude. So your role in the Pleiades feels very motherly. It's like I just hear you were like a mother to many. It's literal. So you weren't only a way shower, you also were a populator. Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay. How many lifetimes did you have in the Pleiades? It's just a lot, and you're just so, I've met a lot of people with Pleiadian connection, but I would say that, like, from a total perspective, you're just so interwoven with every, like, part of who they are and what they are, and all the diversity that's come from it, and, because, it's not just one star, it's so many different stars, and so you're so interwoven with all aspects of it. So, like, you're especially coming into the tachyon chamber is giving you a more direct access to all that you are there, and it's like everything that, like, you can learn and remember from your connection to the Pleiades. It's not just like the Pleiades, like that's almost like such a, I'm gonna use it like a strong word, like such a bastardization or like generalization of what it is. There's the amount of depth that's available there for you is quite immense. And so I would almost suggest for you, start connecting with the energy of, if you aren't already doing this, each star individually, and feeling how they feel different, and then feel which one you feel most drawn to first, and then see if you can go one step beyond that. If there's a particular planet, or like just saying, like the thread and the amount of depth you can go into other than just like, I'm connecting with the Pleiadians. It's like, it's exponentially and tremendously, and I can't emphasize like how deep it is for you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the most important message to come through about that. So in regards to Sirius, less of a living there, but like more of a traveling there. There's definitely a connection. Have you had a lifetime there? Not a full one. I don't get a full one. It feels like you've spent a lot of time there, but you never were like a Syrian being per se. But that doesn't mean the connection isn't strong. They are like brothers and sisters to you, is what I'm hearing. It's like, this is how I would describe your connection with Sirius. When we talk about family, and we're born here, we originally think, oh, my family is these people I'm genetically related to. And then we, grow older and we evolve, and we're like, well, yeah, they are my family, but also my family are these people I feel this incredible, deep soul connection to. This person is my brother, this person is my sister. And Sirius feels very much like that for you. There's a high level of aid that can be received from them, but there's also like the feeling I get between you and your Syrian brothers and sisters is just a high level of respect and admiration. Like, they see you, they know what you've been a part of, they know what you're doing. So there's a tremendous amount of loving, just love. I kind of want to say pride, but it's not really pride. They're very proud of you, though. Very proud of what you do, and they see what you do and how you do it, and it's different than how they do it, and they admire that so much. So let's ask how you ended up in Earth. Maybe when your first lifetime on Earth was. And how many lifetimes you had on Earth. It's like mid-teens. I heard 14. It's either that or less. It does not feel like more. You did not like fully immerse yourself in the karmic cycle and get lost in it. Each life here has been very purposeful and meaningful. I think the key thing I want to emphasize is the Pleiadian connection and the idea that like they are, it's very interesting because like they are our ancestors, but also they are the future versions of ourselves. So genetically, we're both, especially as humans, Lyran, Pleiadian. We carry a lot of those genetics. And then who was the original? The Essassani, them too, but I don't feel like so much they're a part of the story. But what I'm getting at is that it's like the Pleiadians are, for some of us, they are us from the future, reaching back. So there's this really great book I read called, I haven't read the whole thing, but the first part called Earth, the Living Library, the Pleiadian Keys. Have you read that?
No, I've heard of it though.
Yeah, you should read that book for sure. And it really talks about how the Pleiadians have gotten to a certain point in their evolution where if they want to make the next step, they basically need to give all the power and everything that they have to what they created, which was us. Mm-hmm. So it was like humans were originally created as, I mean, let's be honest, a quasi-slave race to get shit done. And I think that was more by the Essassani. So the point is, it's like all the creative power that the Pleiadians have, they are trying to find a way to liberate us and instill in us. So I asked how you came here, and it's like you didn't come here until you got so far as a Pleiadian that you knew you couldn't go any farther unless you basically interjected yourself back in time as a human to help free humanity from the inside out, so that you in turn,
again, I'm with you,
could quantumly free yourself as a Pleiadian to your next step of evolution. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's thank you for being with that. But that's literally what it is. I can't, I mean, just like, no. So, yeah. You really need to read that book, because it's just going to describe, it's like, and so like each time you've come here, it's like been with that purpose. It's like, that's why you come here. It's that purpose, like to help liberate humanity so that like you can actually have your next evolution. And then like every time you do it and it doesn't work, you're like, I mean, you know, you're pretty ascendant, so you're not using these exact words, but you're like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to do that again.
Why does it not work?
Why does it not work?
Yeah.
Well, this is a very tricky place.
Yeah.
It's a very tricky place, and there's a lot of other players at play. And here's the thing is if you're going to liberate something, you can't force it.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you can't just give it all the answers. It's the same thing that like I love this Abraham Hicks quote where she says, words don't teach, only life experience does. And so it's like almost like if you look at Earth like as your children, and you're like, children, don't do that, do this. And they're like, Mom, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'll do exactly what you didn't say.
Yeah.
So we tried that. And what we ended up getting was rampant teenage destruction.
Right.
AKA the fall of Atlantis. It was humanity being a bunch of fucking teenagers and blowing themselves up on a massive scale. There have been smaller ascensions on the planet, but nothing global. So this time in this timeline, it was like you as a creator being decided to insert yourself into the system and be a part of it. And there's something about, this is the hope, that it's by threading the line between not remembering but having these sort of DNA mile markers and synchronistic sort of pointers for you along the way, you would know just enough at just the right time to actually have a chance without blowing it up. And obviously the other end of the spectrum without it going stale. So can ask if there's anything pertinent to this lifetime in particular or future lifetimes. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I would like to know about this lifetime in particular, but I feel like I resonated with a lot of what you said, and I also just, I guess for confirmation, I feel like I haven't had a life here in a while. Like I feel it's difficult for me sometimes to relate to other humans because I feel like the last time I was here was like, 400 years ago or something at least. And I'm just used to different times,
That checks out. 1600 feels about correct.
Okay.
But I think there's been one in between. I think that there has been a more recent lifetime. But I think that maybe there was something about it that it didn't really help. It feels pretty dark.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I also connect so much with being a mermaid. If you get anything about that. Or mer person.
There's two things initially, which is like that connection has a lot to do with the fall of Atlantis for some reason, which I guess logically makes sense because it didn't like sink into the ocean. I think this is more maybe my logical brain is like the serious connection, but I'm hearing something about like it has to do with like time jumps. Time jumps and like quasi like parallel realities. This feels like the most resonant is that this is like a this is a parallel reality thing. So maybe we can ask what the connection is there. Are you a mermaid? What I'm getting is that there is a connection, but it's not really giving me anything beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah. What's the desire there? Is there some sort of longing for?
I mean, yes, but also just confirmation, or if there's anything that is suggested that I lean into.
It's
or
Atlantis.
Yeah.
It's just so Atlantean. I'm like seeing like it almost looks like some Little Mermaid stuff, like the trident. This really has to do with Atlantis.
Okay.
Yeah. What is your feeling with it? Like it feels very
happy.
Okay.
Like I just have like memories or visions of like swimming with sea creatures to like pastel water castles and just being really happy and free.
I tell you, this makes sense too. I think that it's one of your most direct connections to sort of like who you are on a soul level. When we talk about the lineage of you going from literally being the in-betweener of realms,
right,
to almost literally being like the gas on the planet and the wind on the planet, then sort of like the next more solid would literally be being in water, being connected to water. So I think the biggest emphasis is like, to me right now, what I'm receiving is that the symbology of it is the most important part, at least for me to dictate to you now.
That makes sense.
Is that like it really is like it holds the essence of feeling in flow.
Yes.
And feeling free in that way, like the dolphins. We think of them as being so free. They're so free because they're totally present, and good God, they're in flow.
Yeah.
They're so in flow.
Yeah.
And so it's really that. It's a connection to that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
At least for me, as a channel right now, like the story of what that is, to translate to you, less important, and more to tell you that is a representation of the energy of who you are and where you are very happiest, of course, like you said. So maybe I ask like how you can connect to that more in sort of your daily life and in the future. Okay. I don't even know what that means, but this is it's so silly, but I'll say it. And I just heard like water therapy, and I'm like, what is water therapy?
Okay.
So basically the idea would be like in any way you can get just like running water to like wash over you. I'm almost seeing like it's not like showering. It needs to feel more like a flow. If only there was like a giant like sink or something you could get under, and it would just like,
yeah.
Do you know what you
go
just
find a waterfall or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
It needs to be like flowing though. There needs to be moving water, and like it. Yeah, that's like.
Okay.
That's very important, and that'll do a number of things for you.
Yeah.
It'll also clear you and cleanse you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get in moving water. No, I mean, I guess there's Barton Springs, but it needs to be more like that's not moving fast enough. It needs to like be flowing.
Yeah.
You will feel it energetically. Okay, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, I guess we can go to like current life, like what is important for me to know, or what will help me on my journey in a physical sense and a spiritual sense.
Okay, this is what I'm hearing. Your life has been divided into 3 major sections. Okay. All right. Section 1 is, waiting for the answer. Let's see. Interesting. So, just going to make sure I say them correct. Okay. Yep, heard it twice. Phase 1 of your life, opportunity. Endless, boundless exploration and opportunity. Phase 2, it's actually a step back, some sort of remission. Phase 3, completion. So, I don't want to tell you what phase you're in. Do you feel, was your early life actually filled with like a lot of exploration and curiosity and opportunity? Or was it not?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
I feel like I relate more to that now.
Okay. So we're in the opportunity phase. And early in life,
It's kind of dark.
It was dark. Yeah. Okay. It usually is for most light
Yeah.
workers. That's pretty common. So, you did ask, was there anything relative to my life now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this makes sense with the question. Okay, so we're in phase 1. We're in opportunity. So, I just want to give people like positive news all the time. But there's going to be some sort of phase of remission. Okay, And the remission will be, and I'm glad you answered that, with clarity about your life earlier on. There may be a dip back into that. There may be some sort of a coming back process of that, but it's only going to be to wrap things up, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the darkness of your past and the challenges of your past, you are going to go, and I think a lot of us are going through this, but very specifically, there is going to be a phase where that stuff starts to echo around you, and then you're going to question what the fuck you're doing. And that's okay. But I hope that you will remember this, what I'm saying, not as a warning, but as a point of strength. I don't really necessarily preach the idea of tests, but this is a part of the process of completion. So I'm gonna ask maybe if there's a timeline in general. Basically the whole thing all three phases will play themselves out within the next 3 years. Which feels very in alignment with the conversation we were having earlier about collectively. So this initial phase, you're going to continue to step into a lot of opportunity. There's going to be a lot of flourishing. And just when you think it can't get, no, I can't say that. It's just going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some sort of, I don't like to say that. So this is the message. Right now, the energy is, there's some sort of subconscious thing. When is the other shoe going to drop? Even if it's not a major player, it's active enough in there that as you start flourishing more and more, don't let that bubble up and become a huge player in your life. I would say maybe make a conscious decision now, if you choose and it feels beneficial, to continue to, and I know you're already doing this, but anyway, this is all true. I know it's true because I feel it. I feel it, and because I can read people energetically. I don't know. I'm just really good at it. And so I felt all these things before. There are still things in your field from the past that can be completed. Yeah. And so the real message to come through is no matter how you do it, you don't have to force it. Your life's not going to fall apart. But within the next 3 years, you will.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I want to deliver that message, and that's the truth.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Shit's not going to totally hit the fan.
Okay.
But there definitely will. The echoes of challenges of the past will come back as reminders, in which you'll be able to deal with them in a way that you can complete them. Which is actually a really beautiful thing. This is something that I have also experienced kind of recently, and I've been especially in Texas, and I had a few moments in San Antonio where stuff came up and reflections were shown to me, but they were shown to me in such a way that they didn't devastate me or they didn't really throw me off my rocker, but it was just clear enough that I was like, oh, I can complete that now. So this is something that will happen for you as well. So anything specific that wants to come through about this lifetime? I just get that the jungle is really good for you. Is there anyone that you've had like sort of long-term falling outs or disagreements with or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone in particular, or just a few kind of?
I mean, like, I think there's people that relationships just like ended and we moved on. And sometimes it was abrupt. But no one that I think of that I'm like, I want to go back with that person or want to be friends with that person again at all. You know, every time it's very clear as to why that has happened.
Yeah. There's some sort of theme of like making amends with something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like coming back together with someone. But this is a theme that will actually pretty immediately in the upcoming months, there'll be some sort of healing in regards to that. All right, any other major life of milestones or anything I can pick up or I'm allowed to tell you about? Is there any subject you want to know in particular? Or just in general? I get that you'll be in Austin for some time.
Really?
But it's not going to be like...
Forever.
No, it's not like decades.
Yeah.
It feels like the cap is like... it's like... The cap feels like... Well, this makes sense. The cap is going to be like... It wouldn't be longer than 2 years. It wouldn't be longer than 3, definitely not.
Whoa.
That feels like the cap.
Yeah.
Is that long?
Yeah, that's shorter.
That's shorter.
I mean, I guess I always knew that it was more of a stopover again. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be settling here.
It feels like this has to do with this 3-part cycle that's playing out. Opportunity, remission, completion in the next 3 years also will obviously equate itself to... So basically, like when you come into completion, it will be completion of the location that you're in as well.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, on to the next step. I mean, my questions, like most people, are as far as in this incarnation, just, I guess, the topics of like love and finances. That's usually what people want to know.
I was like about to start answering before you.
Yeah.
Love is possible, but not contracted. Anything else about that? It's interesting because it's like they exist, but as far as like truly aligned, do you have a partner or no? No, okay, I didn't think so. As far as truly aligned, there's only a few.
Yeah, I know that.
It's like kind of a low number.
Yeah. Slim,
yeah.
Slim pickings, I know. Yes.
It's so. Here's the thing. It only takes one.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there being more or less doesn't make it more or less likely.
Mm-hmm.
They say this that the human brain tries to do odds. They're like, well, the odds of winning the lottery is blah blah, and I was like, well, the odds of you winning the lottery is really low because you're looking at the odds. The odds of you winning the lottery, if you're completely in alignment with it, are 100%.
Right.
Yeah, and so the point is that you've evolved to a certain place, and you're here for a certain mission. That there's only a few others on the planet that are both a mission, soul evolved, and also just energetically in alignment with what you're doing here. So that's why it's so
Rare.
The numbers, it's so rare. Yeah. I don't even want to use the word rare. It's because when something exists, it's not rare. It just is. There's no rarity to it. So you ain't gonna need to do a bunch of dating.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna even need to look for this person.
Yeah.
The only thing, you don't need to do anything, but if you want to do anything, just spend time remembering what it feels like to know. Get so familiar with knowing that you just know. And then when you really, really know, remember what it feels like to know, oh, it's you. And then, oh, it's you. Oh, it's you, I know. I know. That's it. Anything less than that will not do.
Yeah.
And so there's no other formula, and there's nothing else to do except for whenever you feel like it, don't make it a job. Whenever it feels like fun, because you're Pleiadian after all, and everything's supposed to be fun. Do that.
Okay.
If that's something you really want. Okay, money. If you really care about making a lot of money, diversifying is important. But here's the thing. Based on energy and frequency and trajectory right now, you ain't gonna be poor, you ain't gonna lose it all, you ain't gonna struggle. But it's not I'm a fucking billionaire. It just feels super even-keeled. It feels like when Bashar gives the definition of abundance, having what you need when you need it to do what you need. That just will always exist.
Okay.
Yeah. Always exists. Alright, so any final things to wrap up with, or I can ask if there's something to complete with, unless you have a last question.
No, you can ask.
Okay. How would you feel about coming back to Earth for some more lifetimes?
How do I feel about it now?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make the most of it.
Good. I get 2 more.
Wow, okay.
Why?
I don't know. I kind of thought, just because of everything that you said that relates to what my greatest desire has always been, which is to exist in between time or be able to travel, like to exist outside of time, travel in between time, and then like furthermore, that was, once I woke up, that was expanded to travel freely throughout the multiverse instead of just the time matrix. So I just felt that in my ascension process in this life, that like after this, I would be getting that back. And I would be able to have that again.
Yes.
Not like in a linear sense, 2 more lifetimes around.
Yes. Well, they already exist now.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay.
And those lifetimes will be experiencing that more fully.
Okay.
They feel like a part of it's total Bashar energy coming in now. I'm literally answering like Bashar. I'm like, yes. Yes. Did you notice?
Yeah.
It was literally him. It's lit. So it's this is just a confirmation that like those lifetimes are a part of like the hybridization process.
Okay.
You're a part of that in the future.
Okay.
Like not because you have to be, but because it interests you on a soul level, and it's going to hold a lot of the aspects of what you're interested in, which is you are going to continue to explore the aspects of Earth and physical reality here that you've actually become quite fond of. And also it's going to greatly open up you to the other realms too. So it's like, why would you come from a place and experience the in-between only to leave that behind and then come here and really experience beingness, and then to just go back to where you came from? That wouldn't be very satisfying. You're like, well, I had this one meal and this was kind of good, and then I tried this other meal, but I liked some aspects of this and some aspects of this.
Yeah.
So, well, it's like, fuck it. You're creating, that's the hybridization. You're part of the creation of the third, which is like this girl gets to have her cake and eat it too.
Nice.
So that's what awaits you. And it will only be, and it doesn't mean you have to wait for another lifetime for that to happen. It'll just be like a deepening. It'll be a deepening of that. Okay, so anything last that wants to come through? I think the last things I just want to reiterate is anything you can do to help mellow you out. Be with running water, and not just be with running water, literally be in running water. And the last thing is be really conscious of the things in your life, be really conscious when you complete something, and be really conscious when you spark something and create it. Because those are sort of your two bookends that you come from. And they can just be segments in your life, or relationships or things. But there's something about those two. It's kind of your sweet spot as a human. It's your sweet spot of being in between. So, relish your endings and relish your beginnings. Okay. Because on a soul level, it's actually where you're most home. Okay, so I'm going to close out the records. Come back.